Hello people, and welcome to another Cities Skylines tier video. I hope you're having a wonderful day. It's been a long time since we've done one of these, and it turns out you guys can't get enough of them. These videos are insanely popular, and we need to make some more. So there's a few map packs that we haven't done. We haven't done the airports yet, which is only 3, so we'll leave that for a separate, smaller video. But we are today going to have a look at the Plazas and Promenades maps. Well, let's not waste any time. Let's have a look at the tier list for the Plazas and Promenades maps, shall we? So the first map up on the Plazas and Promenades tier list is Cape Apple, which is a Manhattan/New York inspired map. And this for me falls into just about an A tier. So Cape Apple is a temperate themed map with a 64% buildable area and all available outside connections. Those interested in the terrain, the vast majority of the map has lots of flat buildable space. And then lots of waterfront opportunities as well, and then there are some larger, more mountain or hill type peaks within the 81 tile radius. Those interested in farming the wind, there are plenty of windy spots all over this map, most notably around the mountain peaks and the waterways, as you would expect. Taking a look at the natural resources, fertile land is definitely the most abundant. You will also get some nice ore areas in this map as well, and some pretty sparse oil spots. That would make building quite hard, I think, so probably not the best map for oil, but of course you can always play with the actual landscaping tools. And then for those interested in some fishing, it is very much a shellfish party, although there are sort of skims of anchovy and salmon knocking around in the map as well. So Cape Apple, it's essentially Manhattan, okay? You can really get an impression of this as you look down, okay? You have like Lower Manhattan Island and Brooklyn and Uptown, Midtown, etc. So if you're looking to sort of build a fairly convincing or authentic recreation of New York City, this map would be an excellent starting point for that. Your starting tile is here, I guess, on what is technically sort of Lower Manhattan, I think, in the real world. This is where like the World Trade Center is, I think, isn't it, on the actual island. But it's a nice, flat, sensible, temperate themed map. There's some significant water features over here where we've got a larger lake where you could definitely bring in some more countryside vibes. And if you are going to go for that kind of New York inspired skyline, you could generate a very interesting looking city with this, especially with the new content creator packs that have just come out as well. Looking around some of the networks, they might want maybe a little bit of move it. I know there's bridges steeper than this in Japan, but it wouldn't have been how I would have built this bridge. I think I would have maybe built it a little bit lower. But it is here. It can be corrected with move it or just manually redrawn in yourself, of course, but it's probably not the best looking vanilla bridge you've ever seen. There is something very nice and distinctive about the waterways here, something almost quite tropical about it, I think, in the way the sandbanks are all set up. But again, really cool building opportunities here, perhaps something pedestrianised out on these islands. Lots of opportunities there, I think. There's also a really nice beachfront down here with kind of a little gun turret just to the south of the main islands. Again, lots of opportunities for something interesting to happen out this way. And I would also like just to give some appreciation to Cape Apple's waterways. They've not got any horrendously steep or nasty riverbanks on them that make it really awkward to work with. It's nice sensible gradients here. The rivers all seem to be having a nice time. There is 3 of them that all flow out together into the main body of water, where we come across another highway bridge alongside a rail bridge, so you've got some nice parallel network action happening here. Nothing horrendously ugly or anything like that, all nice and workable. And then we come back out into, I guess, what is the ocean here, right? What would be the Atlantic. And then there's more little riverways that span around, so if you like water and flat lands, Cape Apple, possibly one of the best maps for it. But that's kind of all there really is to say about Cape Apple. There's nothing drastically wrong with it, and I don't think there's anything absolutely amazing with it either that pulls it into a must-play map. If you're interested in sort of recreating New York City to some extent, or at least to play with kind of the same ideas of having a very built-up, high-density island, Cape Apple is perfect for it. It's set up and ready to go. You start on the island with the starting tile, but it's flat, it's buildable, it's temperate, there's water, there's no horrendous terrains, there's some mountains in here. It's just a nice, happy A-tier map for me. It's not a bad one, Cape Apple. The next map on the Plazas and Promenades map tier list video is Coastal Gem, and this for me is actually going to go into must play. So Coastal Gem is a tropical themed map with a 57% buildable area. It has all available outside connections and all available natural resources. For those interested in the terrain heights, nearly half the map is actually your ocean, although we do have some large island spaces within them. And then within the actual buildable space, a lot of it is very flat and super buildable, with some more rolling hills as opposed to mountains in kind of the northern part of the map. Taking a look at your natural resources, you do have a ton of ore in this map, so if you're a fan of building the ore mines, Coastal Gem is perfect for it. There's also some pretty significant oil deposits and also some oil out in the water, which means you can finally use the sort of drilling rig asset that comes with the oil industry DLC, which no one ever uses because there's hardly any oil out in the water, but there is on Coastal Gem. Then the map, of course, is incredibly windy, as you would expect it to be around the water and on top of the mountains. And for those wanting to do some fishing, it is very much anchovy and shellfish only. Any salmon or tuna fish lovers will have to go elsewhere or terraform to get them in. So why indeed is Coastal Gem falling into must play category? There's a few things that are doing it for me. One is the shape of the coastline here. It's a real gem. There's a lot of different things going on. Okay, there's some more sort of cliff vibes happening here with this little bay. Super rough, would make a great nature reserve. And then over here we've got a little peninsula with white sandy beaches, perfect for like a tourist build, perhaps to base a downtown around here. Again, there's more hills if you want to perhaps go for the old nature reserve route, then you've got that option here as well. Alongside a series of islands that are, albeit within the 81 tile radius, you will need 81 tiles to play here because they are far away from your starting tile. It still gives you the opportunity to get some little island communities going, perhaps purely pedestrianised islands. But then there's lots more beach vibes along here. It comes back into some rocks. It's kind of green and a little bit more swamp-like here. So really diverse coastland in Coastal Gem. Very much taking after its name. I love the coastlines in this map. Lots of opportunities. And then second of all, we arrive at the perhaps the most insanely well put together four-way highway intersection that Klaus Lauder has done. Although the Gradient Police will have something to say about this, I'm sure. You see, the Gradient Police are after the wrong people, right? But what's being made here? You need to come and flag that up. But otherwise, besides some questionable gradients, what a wonderful interchange. Big round of applause to Paradox. These things are not easy to build, especially with no mods either, like they have to build them like this for the DLCs, of course. But it works, and it's nice, and it gives your city, with the start of your city, a much more impressive backdrop, doesn't it? When you're working with this big highway interchange that cuts through this valley. Really cool. So I love the highway interchange for Coastal Gem. And then as we head further into the map, we just arrive at these little lagoons that are just littered across the map in several locations. Again, different styles of water. So maybe you could make like a kind of a 3 lakes holiday resort out of this. It's a really cool map. I love the waterways and the beaches and just the general vibe of Coastal Gem. There's a lot to be enjoyed here. There's not too many more intersections or networks to mark it down on because there is only one rail line out here. And this is your only highway intersection in the middle of the map. They do just exit from here, so there's nothing really too bad to judge on that behalf. And there is some more lakes over in the east or the west as well, but these ones aren't really as interesting as the ones on the opposite side of the map over there. And there's some very cute basic vanilla detailing using some castle ruins and some old colourful trees. I kind of forgot what these trees look like now. Don't ever use them since the content creator ones came out. I kind of forgotten what they look like. And then the terrains out here. Just rolling hills, right? There's no significant mountain ranges. Which is something I usually enjoy. I do like a mountain. Some of these ones over here are a little taller, but I think they still kind of qualify as a hill as opposed to a mountain. But Coastal Gem falls into must play for me. It's got a really cool highway interchange in it, which makes a world of difference to me from the horrible crap vanilla ones that most of the maps come with. It's got some really nice coastal opportunities. It's nice to have like quite a tropical feeling, appropriate coastal map for plazas. I do like this one. Some larger mountains would have made it an absolute baller of a map for me, Coastal Gem. But there's plenty of here to be enjoyed, and because of that, for me, it falls into a must play. Next up is Gondola Islands, and this one for me kind of resembles the archipelago from Natural Disasters, and for that reason it has to fall into the similar tier of must play. So Gondola Islands is a European themed map, and it has a 34% buildable area, It also has all of its outside connections, all available natural resources, and is an extremely unique water terrain map. Those interested in the terrain, I think it's pretty clear what you're getting here. You're getting a lot of water with some very unique shapely islands out throughout the water mass for you to explore. Anyone interested in wind can of course expect to find wind along the shorelines. For those wanting to explore some natural resources, you will enjoy a ton of fertile land this map is meant to be farmed. The ore is a little trickier to get to because it's on kind of specific island land masses, but could lead to some cool builds. And the oil is plentiful enough and in fairly large enough concentrations to make a pretty significant refinery build. And coming on to the fishing, besides the anchovies, is very much a prawn, crab and other crustacean party, as the shellfish very much dominate the fishing throughout most of the water. But Gondola Islands, it's another one of those kind of quirky, unique maps, isn't it? Very much in the same vein as the archipelago from the Natural Disasters expansion. It has that very kind of intense watery vibe, doesn't it? You are greeted with these huge network bridges that spill out from the edge of the map, of course, serving your outside connections, with what would appear to be 3 vanilla industry factories, some of which kind of pop in and out of existence depending what day of the week you look at them. And then these just continue all the way through here, comes back out to another outside connection out this way. But the real meat and potatoes is of course the fact that there's a lot of islands that would be perfect for sailing between on a gondola, hence the name Gondola Islands. But no horrendous networks, and you could imagine a series of interlinked pedestrian communities based off of each of these islands. You could really theme each one after a specific build, like this could be the farming island. You could definitely maybe do some sort of like industry ore mine out here that's isolated by the water, so you will end up creating, especially if you go to fill the map with 81 tiles, which you will need to get out to some of these more fringent land masses right on the edges of the map, but that's kind of the bulk of your land mass right there. But you can imagine what this place would look like, with each of the islands properly built up and decorated, perhaps a major metropolitan sprawl on the main island, and that's then supplemented with smaller island communities. It's a very unique map. I appreciate the fact that Colossal Order put this sort of stuff in the game. It's not all just sort of flat playable maps time after time again. They do kind of, go out of the box a little bit, I think is the phrase to use here, isn't it? Within the main landmass itself, it's all super flat and buildable for the most part. There's little lakes knocking about. Tons of fertile land and forestry to take advantage of course. With your starting tile right next door to this river that carves through the main landmass itself. But there's not too much to talk about here. It is what it says on the tin. It's a very cool map, and I would love to see someone take on the project of filling every single major island up, and just the aesthetic that would create at the end would be incredibly cool. But Gondola Islands is certainly a unique map, to say the least. I think if you're bored of those regular flat sort of temperate maps that you always gravitate toward, I think you could create a really interesting project on Gondola Islands using the configuration of all the land masses. Really interesting, really cool, and for those reasons, it falls as a must play for me. Next up on the Plazas and Promenades map tier video is the Boreal map, Oracle Lake, and this for me falls into a very healthy must play. So Oracle Lake is Plazas and Promenades Boreal themed map. It has a 78% buildable area. All of its outside connections and natural resources are available. Taking a look at your terrain in and around the starting tile and resulting areas are all very friendly and flat for kind of mass building. And then within your 81 tile radiuses you do begin to encounter some very intense boreal mountain ranges. Taking a look at the wind turbine, again along the mountain peaks and against the shorelines is where you're going to get the most use out of wind power. Taking a look at the natural resources, there is very little fertile land and very little oil. So it's mainly ore and forestry that you'll be getting use out of in Oracle Lake. And then taking a look at the fishing, it's kind of a weird mix of everyone. Everyone's having a little fish party, so you can catch most things across different areas of the map if you wish. So I could be being a little biased here, because Oracle Lake is very similar to Murky Coast, of course, which is the map that Palaven is built on. And it's got that same sort of nice, lush, boreal forest, mountainous river vibe. This is my favourite kind of map. This will probably be quite subjective for some people as to whether or not this falls into a must play. But for me, it absolutely is. It's got our Palavan pines here. It's been a long time since we've seen this tree. But goodness me, what a wonderful map, everyone. Let's sort of get into it. So really cool landmasses, lots of very nicely terraformed mountain peaks. I love the silhouettes of the mountain ranges here. We do also have some wonderful parallel river and train action happening in this map, as the train line that functions as an external connection enters into the map, where we are greeted with a sensibly sized railway interchange, thank God. It's obviously not connected, it's kind of like been sort of like broken down to match the vibe of the factory. But this is how we should do train junctions. This is so much better, thank you Paradox. Finally. And then yes, it goes out, of course, and then runs parallel with the highway, where we have some more parallel network action. Imagine running a power line and a lot of fencing down here, right? Lots of nice network decoration opportunities. And then it flows into this boreal forest, which is where all your forestry comes from. We are unfortunately greeted with the crap vanilla T intersections on the highway, but what are you going to do? And then any networks where they need to be aren't absolutely horrendous. That's perfectly fine for me. And it looks like they're begging you to kind of terraform maybe a mountain stream here. You can almost see where like the water wants to take the path of least resistance, coming down this hillside here, down into this little gully. And then you could terraform all this together to create another river in the landmass, really. Quite a cool opportunity there, which of course comes into this lake, which sits at the bottom of this very cool mountain range, which is where your starting tile kind of opens up into. So really cool. It's just a really pretty boreal map, and I've definitely got a weak spot for them after spending basically all of the COVID lockdowns in a boreal map. They just resonate with me. In your 81 tile radiuses out here, it is significantly flatter, so if that's kind of more your vibe, you can get some really kind of cool villages and towns out here that look across the horizon to this very mountainous landscape. So it's a nice mix of both. You've got some flat, you've got some mountains, and kind of a hybrid of both around the river and the waterways. Again, you can see there where it wants almost begging to be terraformed, isn't it? Just so the river sort of merges in and you can create more bodies of water like that, and sort of customize the landmasses to you as well. I think that's what those little sort of grooves in the landmass get us to do. There's some pretty standard vanilla detailing knocking about over here as well, like rocks, kind of broken down jetties, and castle ruins out within the forest for you to find. Always like respecting a build with these, some kind of tourist attraction perhaps. But otherwise, that's it for Oracle Lake. There's not really too much to shout about it. It's got kind of standard intersections, but you've got a really nice map in a beautiful theme across just really well terraformed landscapes, and there's different types of terrain, like kind of super flats where it's much easier to build, and mountains where you can do rural towns, and kind of a bit of hybrid terrain, lots of bodies of water, and with natural resources and all its connections. It's just a really fun, happy map to play. I think if you're looking for a map a kind of a sensible looking map that isn't quirky like Gondola Islands, and you just want to sink in a lot of time into a dedicated boreal build, there's few better choices I think available to the DLC and base game now than Oracle Lake. Must play for me. And the last map for the Plazas and Promenades tier list is Split's Tributary, and this for me falls into a middle of the road B tier map. So Split's Tributary is a European themed map with a 89% buildable area. All of its outside connections and all of its natural resources are available. So Split's Tributary's terrain in and around your starting tile and resulting landmasses is pretty friendly for building, if not a little bit hilly, but within the 81 tile radius things become significantly more unfriendly toward building. Taking a look at your wind radar, again in the flatlands, the mountain peaks and the river shores seems to be where you'll get the most use from wind power. Taking a look at natural resources, there is very few of them, and for the ones that are there, they're in such small abundance that placing any sort of cohesive looking extraction or production area might be a little difficult, but I'm sure you can all come up with something. And then taking a look at the fish, it is very much anchovy and salmon dominated for those that want to get involved with some fishing. But Split's Tributary, It's a middle-of-the-road European theme map for me. It's definitely not the worst map in the world. It's pretty, it's got waterways, it's got all its connections. But for me, if I think like good-looking European theme maps, I kind of gravitate more towards something like Northwood Hills from the Campus DLC. I really do enjoy that map, but either way, let's have a look at our starting tile. So we arrive with this custom trumpet interchange, which albeit takes up an enormous footprint for a trumpet, you can certainly make them smaller than this. At least it's not a crap vanilla T intersection, right? Thank God for custom interchanges. So there's 2 maps here that have them, so very appreciative for that. For some reason, this is the only one of the Plazas and Promenades maps that utilises the bus-only highway roads that came with that update. No idea why. Maybe they just realised that they kind of forgot to include them and threw them in for kind of a last-minute thing, I'm not sure. But they are here if you care about that. Heading down the highway, we arrive at this little kind of rock gorge that it passes through here. It's pretty cute detail, I do like that for a highway. I'm pretty happy with that. Before we arrive at some vanilla prop detailing with the castle walls and the castle ruins, etc., things that we've seen before. I do like that little one on the hillside there. And then we come into some pretty insane and gnarly cliff faces here. Could be some good mountain road vibes to be had. You need to do a lot of terraforming. But it could be nice, I suppose. I don't think it's possibly the worst thing in the world, but very unfriendly for building. We come into the mountain where we're greeted with this little lake that's kind of tucked away from the rest of the map, which is quite cute. You could definitely get some nature reserve vibes. Up here, that's tucked away from the rest of your sprawl. And then as you enter the map with this kind of parallel river and highway network, it really gives kind of a grandiose impression as you come around into this valley, and then kind of the map sort of opens up and these highways are busy and you've got sort of a larger lake over here, and then it spills off into the waterways, which again sort of litter the map everywhere. You do also have an empty highway connection here, which is something we very rarely see in Cities Skylines, to have 2 dead highway connections on a map. You only usually get 1. So again, it's cool to have that in, I guess, and this does pass over another body of water here where there's a touch of dimensional tearing, but I think you can live with that, especially if you do have to move it just to correct the distances of the nodes there. Some pretty mad riverbanks as well, it has to be said, although they are on your tile boundary. This is actually also serving as the connection for ships to come through here as well, so this is where you would accept your shipping lanes. And then again, there's no horrendous networks, it's all pretty sensibly terraformed and designed. There's nothing massively illegal happening, perhaps for that relatively sharp train exit. And this, what? No, don't go back to doing this. You got it right in the other map. Why have we done this again? Don't do this, everyone, this is terrible. Right, so you do have a crap train junction, but of course you can change it out for what you want. So I think there's nothing overly wrong with this map. I just think that there's other European theme maps that, if you want to play with the European theme, do things better than this one, such as Northwood Hills from the Campus DLC. But a pretty middle-of-the-road European theme map for me. There's some nice ideas here. It's definitely not the most interesting map to pull up into an A tier or must play for me. It's kind of a standard, run-of-the-mill, middle-of-the-road B tier map for Split's Tributary. But otherwise, guys, that is going to do it for today. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, likes, comments and shares below really help me out. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, please feel free to leave me a dislike as well. Let me know what you think of the rankings of our Plazas maps. I think Plazas and Promenades is definitely one of the DLCs that's brought some of the better maps that we can play with in the game these days. To have 3 must-plays, and an A tier, that's really good going. Possibly the best performance from any of the tier lists so far. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know you guys really love these tier lists. It's really just waiting for content to release to make them on. And we'll definitely do a new map tier list for the upcoming map pack that is due to release in December from Cities. We'll do another one for those as well. Either way, I hope you found the look over the Plazas and Promenades map useful, perhaps to help you decide on a new city or a new map to build a city on. Or indeed, if you're just curious, either way, I hope you found the video somewhat useful. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.